Welcome back to the Acoustic Shop channel, your official source for everything acoustic. Jeremy, everything acoustic.
It's especially exciting today.
Yes, it is. It is very exciting. Today, we are going to be talking about our newest brand that's coming into the shop, the Yamaha brand, what they're doing in here, and especially this brand new guitar that I'm really excited about, the FG9. We got two different versions of it. It is a mahogany and a rosewood. We're going to go through all the specs. We're going to tell you all about these guitars, what made the Acoustic Shop want to carry them.
And the thing you tuned in for, my opinion.
No, nobody cares about your opinion at all. We will do that. We'll give you the full specs. We'll give you a sound sample. And on top of that, we're going to do a blind test between the mahogany and the rosewood to see if you can tell the difference between the two. We're going to do all of that in this video, so stick around. It's going to be pretty awesome. Thought he would surely be free. Went up step Marshall with a gun in his hand. Said, Johnny, come along. Well, here we are, Jared. We are back one more time with a subject that is near and dear to your heart. It is the guitar.
Yep. No, I love guitars. I just don't know how to play them very well.
You do.
Someday, when I retire, I will take up the guitar. No, these are a special one. We were at the NAMM show. We got to go. One of the things we said before, we tried to plan out our trip pretty well as far as where we're going to film. And so we've got to see these new FG9s. And actually, the media preview day, they had a couple of them out there, and we got to hear them. But then we made an appointment to go up and play them for ourselves.
When we saw that there was going to be a thing at the NAMM show that we were going to go, see, you guys and the media team all came at me and said, we got to go do this. And I reluctantly went. I was like, yeah, it'll be good. It'll be all right. And, blah, blah, blah. And I was extremely surprised with what I ended up discovering there. There is a lot more detail that has been put into these guitars than I ever expected. It really does hit a mark that totally surprised me. Because honestly, everybody, when they're talking about a high-priced Yamaha guitar that's going to fall in the boutique world, I was like, psh, yeah, right, yeah, sure.
Tough sell.
But they did, and it changed everything for us because it is true. Because of this guitar, because of that day, we walked out of that room and said, you know what? We need to become Yamaha dealers. And this is really funny because at the NAMM show this year, we actually had more companies approach us about carrying instruments than we've ever had in the history of ever doing this. But this was one that we walked out, me and you walked out of the room, and we immediately found a person to talk to and said, hey, I think this fits in our store, and we need to make this happen. So we actually actively searched them out and made sure that it was something we did. And in fact, we actually got them to bring it down here for us. These are special samples that we haven't actually got into the shop to sell yet. We will have them shortly. We will have those for sale very shortly, including other Yamaha models as well. But this was a very special treat for us to be able to get this content out.
And researching a little bit more about the company, they have done this for a while in the nylon string guitars. They've got some very high-priced, well-respected instruments. The steel string guitar world, they've been really, and we found that we have some rabid Yamaha fans out there
yes,
that love the red label guitars, and for the price point, just an exceptional build. They hadn't really dipped their toe into that high-end steel string guitar, and this is jumping way up into the boutique level of that. And so it caught our attention. It said, these guys are making a move. And I think they understood that if they're going to do this, they have got to get it all right. And from what I understand, they reached out to some flashy, hot, flat-picking guitar players out there, some music stores, and they sent samples around. They would build it and then get feedback and then make those changes, send it out again. Went through, I guess, 50 prototypes that they sent out before they landed on the final spec that they were going to use for these guitars, that everyone this was the one they were looking for to get their attention as a flat picker. You want to get into some specs?
Let's do that. That's what we should do right now. Let's get into the specs on this. These guitars price out at $39.99 and $41.99. Now that's $39.99 for the mahogany version, $41.99 for the rosewood. It is a dreadnought as of right now, the ones we at least have right now. I think there may be others coming. I'm not positive on that.
Don't break any news right now.
Okay, well, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, it does have an Adirondack spruce top. In the case, like you said, yours is a mahogany back inside. sides. This is a rosewood back and sides. These are all solid woods, obviously, in this particular one. It is a bolt-on neck, or mortise and tenon neck. It is made of mahogany. It does have a rosewood head plate on there that looks great, by the way. They did this body binding. It is ebony with this rope purfling, but it almost looks like a herringbone. I think what's really cool about this particular rope is it's a lot like an in-between a rope and a herringbone. I like it's modern, but yet also kind of looks
back to the traditional look.
To the traditional look, absolutely. It does have a fretboard and bridge made of ebony, and a adjustable truss rod in there as well. It does have the bone nut and saddle. The tuners are this black nickel plate, and these are actually one of my highlights for here. These are the Gotoh 510 tuners. Those who have been watching the channel know these are really high quality tuners, and actually right now my favorite of the open gear tuners. I like the Gotoh 510s. It is a scalloped X brace with a nitrocellulose lacquer on here, and it is a thinner one than what they've done on some of their other guitars as well. It is a satin finish for the neck, and it does have
a semi-speed neck.
So yeah, it does have a low profile V-shaped neck. They're marketed as a V-shape. It's there, but it's a very
the higher up the neck you get, it's a little bit more.
It's more V, yeah.
Down here it's definitely.
And it is a very small profile, very modern profile in here. Nut width of 1 3/4 with a standard scale length of 25.5 inches. Again, some really cool details in this guitar. I love that they did the purfling line that goes through the peg head. They still kept that the Yamaha V shape, but it is a little bit more modern. Not quite as extreme. So it does pay attention to the history of Yamaha, but yet also kind of gives it a new look at the same time. Like I said, I do love the purfling line. The fretboard markers are really attractive.
It caught my attention at the NAMM show.
But again, traditional all at the same time. Overall, I think it's a very attractive looking dreadnought guitar. And I think that's a tough spot for any company to kind of get into. And I think actually was probably tougher for Yamaha to deal with than most companies when they build a high-end dreadnought guitar. We all know that there are so many biases. We've talked about this over and over, squared peg heads and the traditional look of what a buyer is wanting to do out of this, the square shoulder dreads and all that. And Yamaha was able to keep their history with some of this. They went a little bit more modern with some of like the rope deals, but nothing went out of that traditional
It bridged the gap
look.
well. Even the pickguard is more that Yamaha look, but it's not as extreme.
Totally different material than I've seen from them too. This is a higher end pickguard material and is actually very, very attractive. But again, pays attention. If you're a Yamaha fan, you've been that way forever. This is the Yamaha pickguard shape. That was a really interesting bridge that I felt they had to really kind of bridge, to figure out how to
catch the attention of that group that we were a part of. That I'll admit that I sometimes have biases on my instruments.
No.
Everything else in life I'm totally open, but it's a very impressive leap into this new flat picking market. Obviously, Yamaha's been doing excellent storied history in music, all the band, orchestra, pianos. I know in the nylon string guitars, they have some very high-end players, and the world has really adopted Yamaha in that. I think in the steel string, there was missing that little step up from kind of what they were known. Red labels obviously are iconic, and that was probably the biggest comments we got is, why aren't red labels in whatever review we were doing, why don't we include those? And this kind of was one of those things that caught our attention to make us look again. I think them bridging that gap was the intent behind it, and I would say they've been really successful, at least in my view.
I also find, so tone-wise, there's some really kind of interesting things going on here. This was deliberately meant to fall in a space where they kind of had a modern traditional sound. And again, those of you who follow the channel know that this is a thing we talk about quite a bit. There's that traditional Martin sound, which is a very warm and dry kind of tone. Sometimes tends to be a little bit on the boomier low end side, which is great. Everybody has their preference. Then there's been some of the more modern sounds, the Taylor stuff that really goes for the bright end. But then you got the companies that have kind of fallen in between. Collings, who kind of went with a slightly more bright, more sustain. You've got boutique builds like Thompson, Bourgeois, who have voiced a more particular sound. I want to put this and this is what they were going after, and I do actually believe it did there. And again, I know some of these people on this channel are gonna give me some grief about this, but I really think that their voicing was deliberate, and I think they hit where they needed to be. I actually find this to be a little bit on the warmer side, so a little bit more leaning more towards that Martin sound, but yet have a lot of the traditional boutique voicing characteristics that, for me, you know, fall in there.
Somewhere in between a Martin and a bourgeois.
I mean, that top end. But it's super round, and then.
And now let me do all that on the mahogany so that you can hear it.
Please do. Perfect, Jer.
I gotta practice guitar a little
Great.
bit.
Yes, you do.
I've been the man doing mode for a while now. Look at that. Listen to that.
That's good. That's
Got
good.
some sustain.
That's good. Anyway, it is what I believe that they were going for, and I think they really did hit it. I mean, we played the ones at the NAMM show. I keep doing.
Corey spent a long time in the room there.
We keep beating this up like, you know, boy, I just was not it. But honestly, I wasn't. I gotta admit that I just was not. Jason and you were kind of like, we gotta do this, you know, and I was kind of like, well, I'll go. I'll do it. I'll check it out. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Not only that, but the folks in the room up there were extremely accommodating. They treated us well and really let us kind of get some time with them. Plus, we were hanging out with Jake and doing some stuff too. But
you know, our goal is to kind of curate the inventory we have in our shop. We're only going to carry things we really believe in, and we hadn't carried Yamaha because we didn't necessarily believe in it because we had that bias and hadn't played them. At that show, we actually, right after playing these, like, we should have these in the shop. Yeah. They deserve a spot in our shop, and that led to one line, and we got to play some of the other guitars, and they're going to find a good home in our shop because we do actually think they deserve to be there. But again, it took them building a guitar like this to kind of catch our eye, and we apologize to the Yamaha fans out there for being such Luddites. That's my new favorite word.
Is it? I don't even know what it means.
I don't. I'm not an early adopter of things.
Anyway, we're going to answer a few questions for you here. Who is this instrument for? You know, here's what I think it's for. I think it's for, one, the people who obviously have loved Yamaha and wanted to take it to that next step.
Which they didn't have a lot of options. If they had the top line steel string Yamaha and they said, man, I just really want something more boutique, then they probably had to look off-brand for a Martin or a Taylor.
Absolutely. And I think there's the other side of this. I think this price is closer to the high end, higher end of some of the Martin stuff, but definitely on the bottom end of most of our boutique stuff, yet has a boutique style playability, all the quality of the parts, all that kind of stuff. So you're talking about a $2,000 less price than most of those guitars, yet you're gonna get all of those same qualities, and it has its own voicing. So I think this is for a budget-friendly, super high boutique guitar. Honestly, it does fall in that category. You know, this is going to be one of those that we said this from the beginning when we decided to take this on. Those who try it are going to be extremely surprised at how great these guitars are.
And there will be some skeptics until they get them in their hands. Hands.
And there are details in here that are not found in some of the super high-end boutique stuff. So that is also a big surprise for us as well. So those are probably my two favorite categories of this. Somebody who's always been
Team
Yamaha and wants to go that next level, that's this. If you're kind of looking for a little bit more budget-friendly boutique guitar, this also falls in that line very, very well. So, tone-wise, like I told you before, this is a different sound. It does hearken to a Martin type of tone, but yet also all of the detailed stuff of most of our high-end voiced guitars. So it does definitely work in that category. I like the low end.
Mahogany does have real big sustain, big clarity on it too. Like, listen.
Perfect, Jeremy. That was so good. That was so great.
I wrote that lick.
The biggest cons for me on this instrument are, you know, and this is going to be my own personal biases in here. One, it's going to be tough for some people to swallow a $4,000 guitar from Yamaha. You know, for others it won't be. but I do think that one's going to be one of their biggest hurdles to get through. Obviously, even though I think they did a great job of bridging the gap, if you're a super traditional fan, this does definitely lean a little bit more forward, a little bit more modern. That's just going to be one of those questions that you got to figure out. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of truss rods adjustments up in the peg head. I know the use of it. I'm just so much faster at getting my adjustments down here.
I play mandolin. We've all had them up there, so
Yeah.
not a problem for me.
Didn't bother me
Banjo
at all.
players and mandolin players are used to that.
Well, there you go. Then it's not that big of a con, is it? No.
You just got to come up with something for the
There sure is.
controversy.
There is. But that said, again, if you're open to having a little bit different look and yet still want that a high-end dreadnought sound, this is definitely a one to put on your list because it's got all of those features. So I'm getting the most out of this instrument. Not too much things I would change out of this.
Play it.
Play it, yeah.
Practice. I think that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fabulous guitar. I am so glad that they ended up putting the 510s on here. Again, that's one of my favorites, and I like the look of this black nickel as well. So, yeah, not a whole lot I got big issues with. So, let's get into our rating system, Jer. Talk about the tone. Again, we do this on like quality, so we're going to try to build this out of that for $3,000 to $5,000 price range. How does this compare?
I'm really impressed. I've been playing this Mahogany for a little bit now. It's very punchy, and I can tell that this one's opened up a bunch because I think this is a sample that's been played some. But I know in a year or two this is really going to be a big guitar. I would already, in its current condition, give it about a 4.5.
I'm pretty close on that. I tend to lean on the little bit more articulate bottom end for myself, a little bit tighter. I was a big, more of that Martin-y, darker, thicker tone. Lately, I've been kind of leaning a little bit more on that. So, for me, yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 1/4. I really think it's a fabulous guitar. I think the tone's there. For me, I'd like to see a little bit tighter low end, but I know that that's deliberately where they were going, and not everybody's going after my tone spectrum of what I'm looking for these days.
Wow, he admits it.
There you go. Setup and playability. I think it's set up pretty darn well. The player sample we have right now, touch high on the nut side for me. I leveled out the deal. We did put mediums on this before we played it, so I did raise the action a hair from there. But the setup is really good. Again, this is a boutique level guitar. I'm going to give it a 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. I think I don't play a lot of guitar, but this one's set up well. I think nut on this one's fine. Actually, up the next, maybe a little bit on the high end for me, but I don't play enough guitar to really give it too much. I don't get up past the 5th fret, so I'm going to give 4.5 as well.
Good. The build quality, guys, there is nothing to complain about here. You can tell they went after a boutique style build.
I think they knew if they were going to
inside.
put it at a price like this, they better deliver.
Yeah.
And
I looked at the inside of this guitar. It is clean. It is. It's done the way you want it to do.
It definitely has a calling sort of feel to it, that all the edges are so precise and clean, and something when you look at the callings, you just kind of see this precision in it. And I think they've really been able to deliver that on this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 5 personally.
I actually agree with you. I looked inside at the way they did the bolt-on neck. The bolts that they use are classy, as a star bit in there. It's done right. This is all the way. So I will also, build quality, this is definitely a 5. Let's get into aesthetics. This is going to be controversial, and I may surprise you guys a little bit on this. I'm a super traditional person, but I also recognize the heritage and the feel that Martin had, and that Yamaha had, and it's not a Martin. It's not a Martin. That's what I'm saying. It's not. It had to kind of work in that world, but be its own. I mean, that's a legendary guitar. The headstock shape, the pickguard shape, all this stuff is legendary, and we've all grown up seeing it forever. And I think they did as good a job as I could at bridging that gap to the point that I actually really like it a lot. I think that everything on here, I like
some of the little details. Like I said, maybe a little less steep of a V up here, a little more traditional look to it. The FG on the back of the thumb, it's a small thing, but the quality of that inlay on the back of the heel just looks attractive. The dot markers on it, the purfling, they really spent a lot of time in the design.
Yeah.
Even picking those tuners, I think it's a perfect fit, the color for this guitar. So I'm going to give it a 4.75.
matched me. That's exactly what I was going to say. 4.75. I really, you know, like I said, I think there were so many important factors to kind of work its way around, and they just nailed it. I would have been really kind of disappointed if they had gone with a flat square peg head, and I know that's going to be weird because I've been such a pusher of that. But this is almost as legendary of a company as your Martins and your Gibsons and those kind of legacy companies. So good job on that. I know Shop Sustainable. I don't have all the details on that. We're going to dive deep into it. I know that there is. We've gone through it with our folks at Yamaha, and I know they do a lot of things for sustainability, including making sure they have correct woods and all that kind of stuff. I want to get into the full details on this.
It's too new, I think, for us to give a definitive score. That for us, I believe that it will fall into that check from what I've been told, but I do definitely want to dive a little bit deeper before I give you that. Overall value, this was going to be a tough one because I'm going to get grief from the Yamaha fans who have always had lesser priced guitars that are going to be like, that's just too much. And yet there's also going to be some of the Yamaha fans that are going to go, man, I understand where they're going. Honestly, I think the value is going to come from somebody that's going to recognize this is not, this is a boutique guitar. Yeah.
It really is. And at $4,000, roughly, I know I'm bridging the gap between the two, it's a good value. It really is. It's, is it the best value out there? Is this one of those ones where I'm sitting here going, guys, this is a no-brainer. If you got this money, you got to do it. You just have to. It's a pricey guitar.
It's appropriately priced.
Yeah, but it's still a value. So I'm going to actually lean at about a 4.25 on this one, 4 1/4 stars.
Yeah, I think they will have that pushback on some people that are Martin fans that say, for that much I could buy a Martin, and that's just, they are going to be in Martin camp their whole life, and they probably won't change their mind on that. But what you're getting as far as build quality out of this definitely deserves that price point. They went that boutique level
Tone-wise.
without, like I said, a lot of our U.S. boutique guitars are $7,000-$10,000. So this is falling at that 4. I think it's falling right in. I think they priced it appropriately. I would put it right about where you did. I'd say about a 4.5 in overall value.
Good. I was leaning in that direction.
And the cases, we didn't talk about the cases, but very high quality branded cases that come with them too.
Yeah.
Which again adds to that value.
Yeah. These are not a cheap guitar with a high price. These are high quality guitars with a very affordable price, and it's going to take, I think, you guys as players to kind of get your hands on one and kind of recognize this has the player details, the more easy to play neck, still keeping the 1 3/4 neck with profile, satin finish, almost a speed feel neck, the overall finish and beauty of the purflings and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of value here. So there you go. What we're going to do right now is get you a little bit of a fun thing here. Right now, we're going to
tone
get you
sample and have you actually do a blind switch back and forth so that people can hear the difference between the mahogany and the rosewood. I know you guys would like to hear me do that, but John's the guitar player, so I'm going to let him demo these guitars.
have it, Jared. That was kind of fun.
It was. I couldn't tell one from. No, I could.
You
can hear the
can't tell.
mahogany tone difference from
You-
Rosewood.
He's just sitting in the room going, "Don't sound like a mandolin to me."
It doesn't. See, I could tell. Which one was the mandolin? A, B? No. Really cool to hear the difference between the two. There are going to be skeptics out there. I have been converted. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to play it and feel it for yourself. It's probably not for everyone, but I think there's a huge market for it.
I have no problem playing this. I would play this on stage. I would travel with it. This is a great guitar.
Yamaha actually reached out to me and asked me not to play this on stage. 'Cause, you know,
I don't blame them either.
that's all right. Once they start building some mandolins,
Yamaha, I'll play these guitars for you. If you need somebody out there playing them, I will play one for you. I think they're great.
But yeah, really cool that we have these in the shop. We're excited to show them to our customers. If you guys would like to see the first time we experienced the FG9s, it was at the NAMM show. We did a live stream where we took over the booth and just had a lot of
First
fun.
part of it is a little bit wonky because we were waiting to get into the room. Hold into it, skip ahead a little bit. Anyway, either way, the link will be in this. If it's not there right now, it will be very shortly. Right here in the center of your screen, go ahead and click on that. You'll get to see our first look at it and most of the world's first look at the FG9 and what Yamaha is doing. This is a really cool project. We are glad to be getting it into the acoustic shop. And yeah, guys,
Stay
stick
tuned
around.
to more videos from Yamaha. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
there's going to be a whole lot more. So yeah, stick with the channel and we will see you next time.